Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Coin of World. Today we are going to explore the fascinating story behind the 1963 United States Lincoln Cent, a coin that bears the iconic phrase "In God We Trust" and the word liberty with the date 1963. This coin is not just a simple piece of metal but a deep reflection of American history, culture, politics, and legacy. Full long detailed professional history. Script of 1963 Lincoln Cent. The story of the 1963 Lincoln Cent begins long before the coin was even struck. Its roots lie in the year 1909 when the United States Mint first issued the Lincoln Cent to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The decision to honor a president on a circulating coin was groundbreaking as it broke the long tradition of using symbols like liberty and allegorical figures instead of actual historical persons. Victor David Brenner was selected as the designer of the coin, and he created a portrait of Abraham Lincoln based on a photograph taken in 1864. This portrait has remained on the cent ever since, with only minor modifications over the years. The 1963 Lincoln Cent was minted during the presidency of John F. Kennedy, just before the tragic events of November 1963 when Kennedy was assassinated. This period in American history was marked by immense social change, political tension, and technological advancement. The Cold War was at its peak. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum and the space race was intensifying. The Lincoln Cent, minted in this environment, became more than just currency. It became a small piece of the American story. The obverse side of the coin features the bust of President Abraham Lincoln facing right. The words "In God We Trust" appear along the upper rim, symbolizing the nation's spiritual foundation. A tradition started during the Civil War. Liberty is struck to the left of Lincoln's profile, reflecting the core American value, and the date 1963 appears on the right, indicating its year of minting. Below the date is the mint mark, if any. The Philadelphia Mint produced coins with no mint mark, while Denver used a small d. The reverse of the 1963 cent still bore the original wheat ears design, known as the wheat reverse or wheat penny. This design was in use from 1909 until 1958 and was replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial reverse, designed by Frank Gasparro. The Lincoln Memorial reverse featured the monument in Washington, D.C., which was another tribute to President Lincoln, and if you look closely at the base of the memorial, you can see a tiny figure of Lincoln seated just like in the real memorial itself. This detail made the Lincoln Cent the first American coin to feature the same person on both sides. The 1963 Lincoln Cent was made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It had a diameter of 19 millimeters and weighed 3.11 grams. The coin was struck in two major facilities, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver. Despite the high mintage, the 1963 Lincoln Cent is still sought after by collectors, especially in high-grade mint state condition coins that show no wear. Full original red color and strong strikes can fetch a premium in the market. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC assign numerical values to these coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with mint state 65 and above being most desirable. There are no widely known major errors for the 1963 cent, but collectors often look for minor varieties, including repunched mint marks, double dies and off-center strikes. A small number of transitional planchet errors have also been rumored where coins may have been struck on older blank types or foreign planchets, but none have been widely confirmed or certified by leading numismatic authorities. The 1963 cent also fits into a broader timeline of changes in American coinage. During the mid-60s, the United States was facing a coin shortage due to rising metal prices and increased demand. This led to a shift in composition for many coins, including the cent, which in 1982 switched from copper to a zinc core with copper plating. Thus, coins like the 1963 issue represent the last decades of the full copper era. The cultural relevance of Abraham Lincoln continued to rise during the Civil Rights era. Martin Luther King Jr. often invoked Lincoln's legacy and words in his speeches. The presence of Lincoln's image in the pockets of millions served as a subtle but constant reminder of unity, equality, and justice. Many people today remember the 1963 penny not just as currency but as part of their daily lives. People who grew up during that time may have used this coin to buy a candy bar, a newspaper, or to save in a piggy bank. It holds memories of a time when the United States was undergoing transformation politically, socially, and economically. The legacy of the 1963 Lincoln cent is deeply intertwined with the nation's values. The choice of inscriptions like "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" are not mere decorations. They reflect the ideals upon which the country was built. The date 1963 stands at the edge of one of the most memorable years in modern American history, a time that would soon see the nation mourning a fallen president, grappling with civil rights challenges, and entering a new era of global competition and innovation. Today, when collectors and historians examine a 1963 Lincoln cent, they see more than its metallic composition. They see a coin that bridges the gap between two centuries, one that honors a president who led the nation through civil war and was assassinated for his beliefs, and another president who inspired hope and was also lost to an assassin's bullet. The coin becomes a quiet witness to the power of leadership, the cost of change, and the enduring symbol of a nation's journey. Certainly, here is the continued long, detailed professional history of the 1963 Lincoln cent for your 2-hour video on Coin of World. As we continue our journey through the history of the 1963 Lincoln cent, it is important to understand the broader economic conditions of the United States. During this period, the early 1960s was a time of relative prosperity for the American middle class. But it was also an era of economic shifts and industrial growth. The nation was transitioning from a post-war manufacturing economy into a technology-driven powerhouse, and with that came changes in commerce, coinage, and public spending. In 1963, a penny could buy more than what we think of today. It held real purchasing power. Small items like candy, gum, or even a loaf of bread in some parts of the country could be purchased with just a few cents. This means the 1963 cent was part of millions of daily transactions, from school lunches to vending machines and corner stores. Every Lincoln penny that changed hands was part of a greater economic narrative. At the same time, the U.S. Mint had to maintain rigorous production to meet national demand as coin usage soared. The Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint operated at near full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of cents each month to support commerce. Each coin that came out of those presses carried the same design, the same inscriptions, but a different journey depending on where it was spent, saved, lost, or collected. One of the most interesting elements of coinage in the 1960s was the growing influence of coin collectors or numismatists across the United States. This was not just a hobby, it became an industry and a culture. People started to appreciate coins not only for their face value but for their historical significance, rarity, condition, and mint errors. Collectors began sorting through their pocket change in search of key dates, valuable variations, and near-perfect specimens. The Lincoln Cent series offered plenty of appeal for both beginner and experienced collectors due to its long history and rich design. The 1963 cent fell within the middle of the Wheat to Memorial transition period, and even though it featured the Lincoln Memorial reverse, it still belonged to the early years of that design, giving it importance in historical timelines. Beyond the design and production, another key aspect of the 1963 cent is its metallurgical composition, being made of 95% copper gave these coins a distinct weight, color, and feel that modern post 1982 cents no longer have. The warm reddish-brown tone, the distinctive ring when dropped, and the natural patina that develops over time make pre-1982 cents highly desirable. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Coin of World. Today we are going to take a deep journey into the detailed history, design, background, mintage, and significance of the 1975 Elizabeth II Australia coin. This coin is not just a piece of metal but a story of a time in Australian history when the country was going through important political, economic, and cultural changes. The coin features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse side, a design created by Arnold Machen, which was used on Australian coins from 1966 to 1984. This portrait became one of the most widely circulated images of the Queen ever used, and it represented continuity of the monarchy across the Commonwealth. The year 1975 itself was a very significant year in Australian politics, because it was the year of the Australian constitutional crisis, where Prime Minister Gough Whitlam was dismissed by the Governor-General Sir John Kerr, a moment that shocked the nation and reshaped how Australians viewed the power of the monarchy and the Constitution. During this same year, the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra was producing coins for general circulation, and among them were the coins dated 1975. The denominations included 1 cent, 2 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, 20 cent, and 50 cent coins. All of them bore the Machen portrait of the Queen on the obverse side, while the reverse side had iconic Australian imagery designed by Stuart Devlin, who was the goldsmith and jeweller appointed as official coin designer for Australia. The 1 cent and 2 cent coins featured unique animals like the feather-tailed glider and the frilled neck lizard, representing the country's diverse wildlife, which has always been a point of pride and national identity. The 5 cent coin featured the echidna, the 10 cent coin had the male lyrebird, the 20 cent coin displayed the platypus, and the 50 cent coin displayed the Australian coat of arms. The metal composition of these coins was primarily bronze for the 1 and 2 cent pieces and cupronickel for the others. The 1975 coins were standard circulation issues, but due to the historical context of the year, They gained collectible interest over time. Collectors often search for high-grade examples, especially in uncirculated or proof condition, and these coins can fetch a higher value. Depending on their quality over the years, the 1 and 2 cent coins were eventually withdrawn from circulation in the early 1990s because the cost of production exceeded their face value and inflation had reduced their buying power significantly, but the 1975 versions remain in demand, especially among collectors who focus on complete year sets or who seek coins from significant political or royal years. One interesting fact is that Australia does not feature the year of minting on some of their coins, like the $1 and $2 coins introduced later, but the 1975 coins do have the year clearly marked below the Queen's portrait. Set for 1975, issued by the Royal Australian Mint, is highly collectible and often comes with beautiful packaging and certificates of authenticity. Many international collectors also look for these coins because they represent a period where Australia was redefining itself as a modern democratic nation under the British Crown, but increasingly moving toward cultural and political independence. Queen Elizabeth II remained the official head of state, but there were rising Republican sentiments which would later be reflected in the 1999 referendum, where Australians voted on whether to become a republic. But in 1975, loyalty to the Crown remained strong, and coins like these reflected that unity. Each element of the coin, from its design to its symbolism to its historical year of issue, tells a story of tradition, change, pride, and identity for Australians. In this episode, we will also examine minting figures and era varieties known to exist for these coins, while standard issues are common in circulated condition. There are examples with die cracks, off-center strikes, and double strikes that are highly collectible and worth significantly more in the numismatic market, especially if certified by reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC. We will also look at comparisons between the 1975 coinage and earlier or later years to see how the design and material shifted over time and what those shifts tell us about Australia's economic policies and international trade practices. During the mid-70s, inflation was a serious issue in Australia, and this impacted coin production planning by the Mint in terms of metal procurement and distribution across the nation. Coin collecting in Australia also began to gain popularity around this time, due in part to increased tourism and cultural outreach by the government, as well as greater interest in royal memorabilia due to Queen Elizabeth II's global popularity. The 1975 coins became a part of souvenir sets and educational kits distributed in schools and museums around the country. In our detailed video, we will go coin by coin and show high-quality close-ups of the 1975 one coin valuable and another common. We will talk about die types, planchette issues, edge varieties, and collector grades from good to mint state, as well as the coin set. We will explain what to look for if you are a new collector, what makes